Well, the YouTube says that we are live, but I don't believe them. Good morning. It's the 22nd of November, 2024. We're going to talk about Vladimir Putin. We're going to talk about corn in Iowa, national intel, hypersonic missiles, all the good stuff. We should be live on the YouTubes of the 5x5 shortly. So what's up, replay crew? Hello, can you hear our words are coming out of my face? I make a best briefer for you. Our Rocco and Rodney and Dana and TMC and Brian. No, Brian said 1984. Everybody else says 5x5. Awesome. Shalom. Good morning. Welcome. Subscribe, ring the little bell icon, do all the YouTube things. If you want to be subscribed, make sure that you are still subscribed because YouTube unsubscribes people from this channel all the time. Shout out to the replay crew and to everybody who is listening on the podcast format. We are in the top 1% or better than 1% of podcasts in the world without even really trying to be. So shout out to the Bear Independent team that rips the audio from these live streams and turns them into a podcast. You guys and girls are cool too. All right. You guys know the deal. The show is brought to you by Yahuwah, your Elohim, the Lord, your God, the creator of the universe. If you don't know him, you should probably get to know him. Recommended, trust me, as a reformed heathen. Tremendous, believe it. Show's brought to you by refugemedical.com, for whom I'm the founder, CEO, and chief shilling officer. And by the wonderful people over on Patreon. Link is in the description. If you want to spend $10 a month and get unfettered access to the Bear for Q&A and 7,000 plus exclusive pieces of content in the backlog and new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, highly recommended. I'm also being encouraged by the junior executives over at refugemedical.com to let you know that Black Friday, Cyber Monday has started early. And there's up to 50% off stuff at the website, refugemedical.com. Free shipping on all orders over $50. You get a free gift with every purchase, and all vacuum sealed kits get you entered into a chance to win free training at our facility on my dime. So if that all sounds cool to you, refugemedical.com. Fabulous. All right. Tremendous. Believe it. You guys might have heard there's this dude over there on the other side of the globe / pizza / whatever you think the earth is shaped like. I personally think it's shaped like a pheasant. Because if we're just going to make shapes up, I'm going to pick one that's cool. Maybe it's a peacock. I don't know. Anyway, over there on the other side of the thing is a guy named Vladimir Putin. All right. The earth is shaped like a bagel, says Agent Smith. Why not? Why not? We're here now. What else could it be shaped like? Do you mean like a toroidal oblate spheroid? Is that what you're talking about? Is that what it is, Agent Smith? What else could it be? I don't know. I don't know. Sorry. Brain kicked all the way into a different gear. I got too many tabs open in my brain. Over there, we're just going to go with over there. Is a guy named Vladimir Putin. And yesterday, he decided to show the world, or maybe remind the world, that he indeed has testicles, and he does not like it when the United States messes around. And so he's trying to play his own little version of FAFO over there. The whole internet broke for a hot minute. We've got, all kinds of like priority messaging coming out of S2 Underground, of whom I am a fan and deeply appreciative of their back channel intel work during our Hurricane Helene deployment with Grindstone Ministries. So I'm not in any way coming against S2, but we have S2 talking about this. We've got like all the major air quote legacy media news outlets talking about it. The prepper sphere is like, oh no, it's a nuclear holocaust. What do we do? We're going to dig into this a little bit. So from RT.com, which we know is propaganda arm of the Russian state. Let's read from RT. Kofefe. Russian president for life, apparently, because it's impossible for this guy to not get elected in Russia. Why? Because, he's got thugs. These kind of, It's funny too, like the Putin simps that are out there. They're like, "You don't understand. Russia's more Christian than America is, and Putin's more blah blah." Who cares? Who cares? This dude is basically an unelected despot and has been for the last 20 years. But whatever, he rode a horse one time with his shirt off, so he's very, very cool. Okay, whatever you're into. Russian air quote president, because the guy's been elected 20 plus years in a row. Elected, because if you don't vote for him, you end up in the river. Delivered a televised address from the Kremlin on Thursday evening. That would have been yesterday, outlining Moscow's response to recent escalations of the Ukraine conflict. He revealed that Russia had deployed a new hypersonic missile system in the Ukrainian territory, criticized the Estados Unidos, that's us, for escalating tensions, and reiterated Moscow's willingness to engage in peace talks while blaming Washington for the conflict becoming global in nature. Yes. Yeah, I mean, he did the whole Crimea thing in 2014, but why did he do the Crimea thing? Because Crimea was like, you can't have your Russian naval ports anymore. Well, why did they say that? Well, probably had something to do with the American CIA. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Did the Americans go over there and play some games? Yup. And did those games escalate to a Russian special military operation? Yup. And have we, like the Americans, been funneling people and war material and your taxpayer dollars into Ukraine? Yup. 100%. That's true. Does that make Putin a good guy? No, it doesn't make Putin a good guy. Does Putin have the right to just go invade someplace because he wants the land? No, not really. And here's super interesting. This was brought up by Habitual Line Crosser, another YouTube content creator who's funny AF yesterday. If Putin's position is that all of Ukraine is Russian territory, then what's the point of saying that Ukrainians can't attack Russian territory when all of Ukraine is Russian territory? Wait a minute. That does not compute. 404 error, circular error, file not found. So anyway, the Ukrainians, wink, wink, the Ukrainians launched a long range missile strike with 6 ATACMS missiles like 72 hours ago. 5 of the 6 were shot down. Now, the ATACMS, as I understand it, requires a 10-digit refined coordinate in order to be able to specifically target after launch, and then they have to tie into US satellites for targeting. So the Americans are 100% complicit in these rockets being launched into Russian soil. Now, this is in the Kursk region where there is an incursion, which is a technical term, where the Ukrainians have gone into Russia and hold a piece of Russia proper that the Russians aren't very happy about. And so Russia, in retaliation, was like, "Oh, you have missile? I have missile too." And they shot missile at a place in Ukraine, the Dnipro Oblast. And this intermediate continental hypersonic ballistic missile named the Oreshnik, aka Hazel or Hazel in English, hit a Ukrainian defense industry facility in Dnipropetrovsk on Thursday morning. The missile is part of Moscow's new generation of medium-range weapons and reportedly travels at speeds of up to Mach 10, which is approximately 2.5 to 3 kilometers per second. Now, we're Americans, so that's somewhere in the range of 120 blue whales per second, because we refuse to use the metric system. Which, in other words, it's pretty damn fast. That's a lot of blue whales per second. And so Putin is of the opinion that because of the speed, 120 blue whales per second, that these missiles cannot be intercepted. And that's no, it's not about 6 miles, Buckshot Bill. You did your math in the wrong direction. A kilometer. Oh gosh, why are we even going to do this? A kilometer is like what? About 3,200 feet. A mile is 5,280 feet. And so then you take the number of kilometers and multiply times zero point 0.6, and you get roughly miles, something like that. So yeah, more like a mile and a half per second, or 7,500 feet, which is, well, how do we convert that to blue whales? It's about 200 max speed of 250 blue whales per second, which is significant. That's a lot of blue whales. But because screw the metric system. Like it or not, we have an American global empire right now, and everybody needs to get on blue whales per second. In fact, I would, twas I, President of the United States of America, that little meter that you have on the dashboard of your vehicle that's like miles per hour. No, blue whales per second is the new standard that we're all going with. Because listen, all this shit's made up anyway. Okay, is all just made up. That somewhere back in the day, a bunch of stodgy scientists smoking pipes in a walnut paneled room filled with books and oil lamps decided, yes, we'll go with miles per second. Okay, whatever. Also, if my left eye looks inflamed and puffy, that's because it is. It's because I got the shit beat out of me by a bush yesterday. Yes, a bush. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, take your licks. So I took mine. I got my ass whipped by a bush and a railroad tie yesterday. Whatever. I'm fine. That bush, 100% dead. Killed the shit out of it. Ripsaw 661 and a Cat 279 skid steer. That bush will never hurt another person as long as I am alive. But I digress. Somebody brought up the qubit in the chat. Space Baby, the qubit. Whose qubit? My qubit? My wife's qubit? An angel cubit? Are we building the temple in Ezekiel chapter 40? An Egyptian cubit, which is 19.2 inches, or a Hebrew cubit, which is 18 inches? Which inch? The imperial inch? Or maybe 12 inches to a foot? Whose foot? A Roman foot? Because a Roman foot is different than an imperial foot. What do you mean by imperial? Are you a colonizer? Well, apparently I am. If you ask the American Indians, of which I am also one, but I'm not on the rolls because I don't want the government, any government, to take care of me. But what about the megalithic yard, which we can read about in the book Uriel's Machine, who was one of the 5 fallen angels who came with Shemjaza previous to Genesis chapter 6, where based upon your latitude, you can use a pendulum and you can come up with 36.28 inches, imperial inches, consistent across the globe, or flat pizza, or pheasant, or toroidal cylinder sphere boot-shaped planet Earth, that now gives us a consistent unit of measurement during the Stone Age, which is counter to all of the Smithsonian era logic and teaching that we've all received through our public indoctrination in the schools, which makes absolutely no sense, but is consistent across all megalithic sites on planet Earth, which is indicative of something like the Tower of Babel and the one world government that existed prior to that, which is part of why the Father was like, you guys suck. I'm going to mikvah, cleanse the entire earth with water, because there'd be giants up in these hills that just stacking rocks so that they could worship the stars, which is gay. How's that? Should I have more coffee? Am I adequately caffeinated this morning? I thought we were talking about Russian ICBMs. We were, until we got on to blue whales per second. If you've ever wondered, how does my brain actually work? It's kind of like that times 100,000 inside of my head at all times. Anyway, hypersonic missiles. Focus, Mr. Bearman. So Putin said there are no means of countering such weapons today because they travel at 120 to 250 blue whales per second. The problem with that statement is that similar hypersonic missiles have been launched by Russia into Ukraine, and they have been previously intercepted by the American Patriot missile systems. But so this is a Putin flex. Okay, that's the key takeaway here. This whole missile thing is a Putin flex. Hey, I don't like that you launched 6 ATACMS missiles at us. I'm going to launch one of our Hazel Oreshnik missiles at you, and everybody's going to cower in fear because the flight path of this missile was approximately 770 miles, and Putin was making a point of like, yeah, we can hit targets a long way away too. Let me know. Said happy birthday to my nonverbal son. He turned 13 today. Will you shout him out? His name is Isaiah. What's up, Isaiah? Happy birthday, young man. 13 years old. Before you know it, man, you're going to be driving Lambos. You know, you could be picking up chicks at the pool, probably operating track hose, doing all kinds of cool stuff, Isaiah. That's awesome. Happy birthday, young man. That's phenomenal. John, not sure if everyone is mature enough for the jokes that went through my mind when you said you were attacked by a bush. I'm sorry. I know it's early. Yeah, there's better bushes and worse bushes to be attacked by. Unfortunately, the bush that attacked me yesterday was in no way enjoyable. We'll just put it that way. You call yourself a pastor. Yeah, what's the first command in the Bible? Anybody. Be what and what? Be fruitful and multiply. Yeah. Yeah. And it's fun if you're doing it right. If it's not fun, you're not doing it right. You know what I mean? Like, come on, get a little inventive. Don't eat the fruit. Which fruit? Genesis Designs. Okay, the Americans are making the Ukraine conflict global. Putin accused the U.S. and NATO of deliberately escalating the crisis by providing Kyiv with long-range, high-precision weapons capable of striking Russian territory. Well, that's interesting that on the one hand, double speak again. On the one hand, Russia's like, oh, your ATACMs are nothing. We're not worried about them. They're a non-factor. But on the other hand, they're long-range, high-precision weapon systems. Ooh. This week, Ukraine used American-made ATACMS missiles and British Storm Shadow systems to strike targets in Russia's Bryansk and Kursk regions. Putin said these attacks demonstrate the West's intent to transform the Ukraine conflict into a global war. Now, again, Vladimir Putin's not a good guy. However, boy, it sure seems like on its surface that the West is super curious to turn this thing into a global conflict. Now, we all know, because we are fairly well educated and we're not idiots and we don't buy the propaganda, that this is a proxy war and always has been a proxy war going back at least 10 years between America and Russia. And this whole Hillary Clinton accusing Trump of Russian collusion and secret servers, and even ties into what happened in Benghazi, Libya, and all this is interconnected to the Democratic Party and war hawks in the Republican Party, because you've got Lindsey Graham saying there's $13 trillion worth of minerals underneath the soil of Ukraine. We should have access to that. Why should we have access to that? Well, one could make the argument, might makes right. We're the American empire and we're going to go get it. I don't agree with that. I don't think American soldiers should be over there dying because Lindsey Graham wants to increase his stock portfolio. But let's just say we were all on board with that. If that was the case, then this is not how you would perpetrate that war. Go in, beat the ever-loving snot out of the Russians, put up an American flag in the capital of Kyiv, be like, hey, this is our place now. We're going to strip mine your country. But what about the Ukrainians? They're all dead because we made them fight the Russians. I don't think that's the appropriate course of action. But if it was, wouldn't you actually commit to the war? Take a decade? Would you take a decade below the threshold of conventional warfare? Or would you just go in, do war stuff, to the victor the spoils? I don't know. Me personally, I'm a little heavy-handed, a little bad at subtlety, not much of a politician, fairly bad at foreplay. Like, are we doing this thing? Oh, we're doing this thing? Okay, it's on. Let's go. You're worried about 6 ATACMS missiles? How about we put 6,000 a day on you? Bear, we don't have the infrastructure for that. I know. Let's go Warhawk hat. Think about how good it would be for the economy if we had to build 6,000 ATACMS missiles a day, or whatever. But I digress. Did you guys know I'm capable of digression? Yeah, you knew. All right. Boo, 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 boo. Again, Putin claims that U.S. defenses and European NATO defenses are helpless against Russian hypersonic weapons. He framed the deployment of the Oreshnik system as a response to NATO's increasingly aggressive actions, including Washington's withdrawal from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty of 2019. Missiles like the Oreshnik are our answer to NATO's plans to deploy medium and short-range missiles in Europe and the Asia Pacific. Now, interestingly, a bunch of people have said that there aren't actually any North Koreans fighting on behalf of the Russians in Ukraine. You might be right on a technicality because they're in the Ukrainian incursion Kursk region of Russia fighting on behalf of Russia. But again, if we go back to Putin's claims that all of Ukraine is Russia, then yeah, they are fighting in Russia or Ukraine or whatever. They are over there fighting because one of their top special, like the North Korean special forces dudes, to the extent that they have those, that guy just got killed. And you know what killed him? That ATACMS missile strike, apparently. So that's fun. The one missile that did get through, because apparently 6 were launched, 5 were intercepted, 1 got through. Okay. But apparently it killed the North Korean top special forces dude. I mean, hard to hit. He was like 4'11", maybe, ninja skills, doing backflips and stuff. 2 swords. Towards your good works. Thank you, Anarchy. Thank you. Anarqy. I'm guessing that's anarchy. Putin announced that while Russia has refrained from deploying medium and shorter range missiles globally, it would reassess this policy in response to U.S. actions. He warns that future targets for Russia's advanced systems would be chosen based on perceived threats to national security. As a, quote, humanitarian gesture, he stated that civilians in targeted areas would be warned in advance to evacuate. That's so kind of you. So basically now what he's saying is, oh, you want to put missiles on our doorstep. We're going to put missiles on your doorstep. Anybody, Cuban Missile Crisis? Anybody remember this? Bay of Pigs? The whole thing that went down. He's basically now saying, oh, cool. You want to put American missiles next door to Russia. We'll put Russian missiles next door to America and your allies. It's going to be curious to see which regions, should he actually forward deploy missiles, which regions he actually puts. Tommy Salter, shalom, brother. Been praying for you. Which regions he actually puts missiles in. Are we going to get another Cold War out of this? I mean, my guess is, just based upon history, we're going to get some kind of war out of this. Cold War, hot war, thermonuclear war, asymmetric, 4th generation terrorist war, more third generation conventional warfare in Ukraine, 6th generation cyber war, robots. We're going to probably get some robots out of this deal. Have you seen that Chinese robot dog thing that also will stand up on its back 2 legs and it has wheels for paws and it'll run up and down like 45-degree grades? Yeah. Black tip armor piercing rounds. That thing. And EMP guns. They now have EMP guns as well that are being used to take out drone swarms. And that's actually reassuring to me because drones are scary AF. And like number 4 shot, number 2 shot, or BB shot in a 12 gauge will like all the way get a drone. Assuming you can hit the thing and you're looking for it. So yeah. Question. If I have a question for Pastor Bear, what email do I send it to? Can I be perfectly honest? Please don't. Please don't. I'm full of Pastor Bear stuff in real life on this side of the camera. I have never, and I'm being perfectly honest, I have never set the expectation that the internet should contact me with their pastor questions. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm actually trying to love you in this way. I'm not entirely sure, A, that I'll have an answer for you, B, that I'll have time to provide that answer, C, that you'll provide enough context for me to give you an answer via email, D, that it's going to be the answer you want to hear, even if I can come up with it. E, I want to set the precedent that people should just email me their pastor questions, because am I a pastor? Yes. Do I have a flock on this side of the camera? Yes. Am I full up managing the people that the Father has blessed me with on this side of the camera? Yes. 100% yes. So I just, and here's another thing, since we're all the way over here in left field now. Most of the questions that people ask me from a pastoral standpoint, the answer is in the Bible, and or you don't need to ask me. You need to ask the Father by the Holy Spirit to give you guidance and wisdom in what you should be doing here. So really what I'm doing in that sense is facilitating you having a conversation with Dad. So you should have a conversation with Dad, because he outranks me infinitely. Hopefully that answers. So we pretty much live in left field. Good morning, Striker Kid. Despite his tough words, Putin reiterated that Russia remains open to talks, but warned of decisive retaliation against escalating aggression. Quote, "We've always preferred and are still ready to resolve all disputes through peaceful means," end quote, the president said. However, he cautioned Western leaders, particularly in Washington, to take Russia's warning seriously. Quote, "There will always be an answer to attacks on Russia," he concluded. So, are we super duper concerned about this hypersonic missile? Nah. I mean, me personally, nah. But what if they nuke America? Bro, even in our end of empire, disheveled military state, the United States of America and our nuclear triad, mutually assured destruction and deterrence doctrine is still a thing. Russia launched one missile basically from their backyard to next door, and the world is like, oh, non-nuclear, praise Yah, non-nuclear payload, conventional payload. Hello. Okay. Why you do this to me on YouTube? You're such an asshole. I know a record this when you do this to me. It's so terrible. Not a good friend. You're not making me no bear happy when you do this. Making me want to punch in your throat or grab you by your ears, pound a knee right into face, make a nose explode, a blood go everywhere. I take an elbow, smash it across a zygomatic arch, a shatter arch, or put an eyeball. I totally mess it up in your face. I hated you, YouTube. You're such an asshole. Sorry. Okay, apparently I'm still here. Anyway, oh no, big scary missiles. We have a bunch of big scary missiles too, and I think what Putin did is more to save face with his own constituency than it is to actually pose a threat to us. Why does Putin want Ukraine? Well, because here, hold on. Let me go over here to the Google Maps. See, there's this place called the Black Sea, which is due south of Ukraine, the Crimean Peninsula that Putin already controls. Ukraine, former Soviet state, Georgia to the south of Russia, former Soviet state. You've got the breakaway region of Moldova, et cetera, et cetera. The Black Sea is really important to them. Also, guys and gerbils, there's $13 trillion in minerals beneath Ukraine. I'd say that's probably pretty valuable. So who has a right to Ukraine? My answer is probably Ukrainians. Zelensky, I think, sucks. I think he's, for all the reasons, he's a literal actor propped up by an unrighteous government here in the United States of America, in large part to launder your taxpayer funds. But I'd say the people of Ukraine have a right to Ukraine before either Russia or America does. So yeah, Putin wants Ukraine back. Yeah, yeah. So there's that, right? There's that. I mean, you got Belarus to the north. Lukashenko is homies with Putin. Ukraine is surrounded on three sides by former Soviet states. Okay. And Ukraine was where a lot of the like technical data packages for manufacturing and industry would go during the Soviet era to produce stuff. Okay, yeah. I could see Russia. It makes sense that Russia would want Ukraine back. But like, you ever just break up with somebody and they get like super clingy? They're like, "I want you back." It's a bad look. Hey, man, we're done. It's over. I'm moving on with my life. I found somebody new. Okay, knock it off. Stop stalking me on Facebook. It's weird, and it's kind of what Putin's doing. It's like, you won't let me park my boats in the Black Sea anymore. It's like, yeah, because we're not friends anymore. We're not friends. Get your shit out of my house. Like, we're not friends anymore. Um, yeah, sorry, Sarah. Stop stalking me. Leave me alone. It's just a bad look. Now the relationship has gone abusive. If I can't have you, no one can have you. It's like, bro, stop. It's gross. So Also, Zelensky wears stilettos to dance in. That is correct, Rebecca. So, who did you think the Democrats were going to pick as a representative over there? Cross-dressing actor? Sounds about right. Sounds about right. So anyway, am I super concerned that Putin launched one missile half an hour into this escapade? No, I'm not super concerned. Does it bear watching? Yeah, 100%. Am I going to lose any sleep over it tonight? No. 0% sleep will be lost over it tonight. Well, damn, you just described my marriage. Attack the squirrel, run. Unsafe, flee. Should we talk about corn in Iowa? You guys into corn in Iowa? Got a pretty good brief written here by the Dance Monkeys on corn in Iowa before we get into national intel. I'm looking at the chat. You want to talk about corn in Iowa? Brett Spencer likes corn. Okay. Corn, yes. Okay. Corn it is. Viking Plumber, Shofar Acres. That's corn with a C. Yes, not the band. Jonathan Davis is not running through the cornfields. Yeah, Fieldy. Oh, Fieldy. Fieldy's not in there smacking a bass right now. I mean, he could be. Who knows? But anyway. All right. Since 2022, net farm income in the United States has plummeted by almost a quarter. And this is having a big impact in places like the state of Iowa, where over 22% of the state's total economic output was from agriculture in 2022. According to the Iowa Farm Bureau Federation, the Federation, they got like spaceships and like cool outfits. Were they just flying around the Milky Way? Be like, we're here to represent Iowa. We got corn. Your kind of people eat corn because we brought corn on our spaceship. This is because of slumping commodity prices and stubbornly high input costs. Slumping commodity prices and stubbornly high input costs. What could do that? Oh, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Thanks, guy. Appreciate you. The cascading impacts of this downturn in the ag economy have already begun. Statewide economic activity has slumped by only, just statewide, $647.5 million. And several sources reported that the GDP, or gross domestic product, would be reduced by $1.5 billion this year. So far, about 4,100 Iowans have been laid off from 23 agriculture and ag-related businesses between September 18th and now. So in the last 2-3 months, that's a problem. But research by the IFBF, remember that's the Iowan space cowboys selling corn throughout the Milky Way, reveals that as a broader impacts are considered, those numbers actually swell to reveal a job loss of 11,400 jobs. Additionally, the Federation of Iowa Space Cowboys economics and research manager Christopher Pudens said, quote, these layoffs here in the state are estimated to lead to a $100 million reduction in state and local tax revenues. Corn, you just don't see it once. Oh, Terry Todd, we're in the gutter this morning. Those are things that help build roads, help build bridges, and help fund schools. Taxation is theft. Actually, it's extortion, because if you don't pay it, men with guns come and take you and put you in a box. I really want to say this next part out loud, but I'm not going to say this next part out loud because it would be used in a case against me at the federal level. But no, I'll just say this. No. There are more of us than there are of them. There are more of us than there are of them. And you no longer get to extort my or anybody else's taxpayer dollars at the point of a gun. Proof of this, Hurricane Helene. We're from the federal government and we're here to help. Also, we shut your roads down because we're FEMA and now aid workers can't get in and people fleeing can't get out. That's cute. Also, unrelated, look at all these FEMA workers who got their asses whipped and are laying unconscious on the side of the road. How curious. Yeah. There are more of us than there are of them. Yeah, but they just hired another 220,000 IRS agents and they're buying guns and stuff. Okay. There's 180 million AR-15s in this country. Just ARs. 180 million of them. Of just those. Shit, there's 2 in this room. Just right here. Come on. Come on, boys and girls. No. Had enough of the government overreach. But if there's no taxes, who's going to build the roads? Shit, you're in Iowa. There's tractors there. Build roads, homie. We build our own roads around here. And I don't even live in the wilderness. I live in a county that doesn't have a whole lot of money. And I'm good with that because the taxes are low. And so when the roads suck, we get a load of gravel at $8 a ton. $8 at 8. Like $8.00 a ton. We get a load of gravel in the dump truck and we dump the gravel out. We spend an hour with the skid steer. Oh, road's fixed for now until it rains real hard or whatever. And then we do it again. And then we do it again. And then we do it again. And I'm good with it because the taxes are incredibly low. Yeah. Oh, but the schools. Oh, you mean where everybody goes to get indoctrinated by the federal government? Subject to change under the Trump administration. Most of the people I know homeschool. Most of them. Their taxes are not being used to teach their children. Your taxes aren't really being used to do any of the things that they talk about anyway, especially at the state level, because it's we need these tax funds so that we can build schools and bridges and roads. Hold on a minute. So you're telling me that your state is not on the tit of the federal government? Oh, wait, it is. Yeah, so it's federal taxpayer dollars in large part that are supporting these things through the Department of Transportation, through the Department of Education, et cetera, et cetera. Meh. Just one giant meh. It's racketeering at the highest levels. So forgive me if I'm not sympathetic towards the lack of tax revenue that's coming into the state of Iowa. I couldn't care less. Figure it out. Also, by the way, governments, figure it out. You know what happens in this household when there's less money coming in than we expected? We spend less money. It's not but that could have gone to vacations and pickup trucks and more sheep and turkeys. Could have, but won't. But how much better would it be if we had more turkeys in the front yard and more sheep in the hayfield? Yeah, sure. Objectively better. That would have been objectively better. What increases the quality of life? Does it? Okay. We could have built more roads on property if we had more money that came in. Yeah, but it didn't. So then we didn't build more roads. We didn't issue bonds. We didn't operate in debt. We didn't go around to our neighbors, point guns in their face and say, give me money to build roads on my property or I'm going to shoot you in the face and put you in a box. Why? Because that's illegal. That's illegal. Non-aggression principle, anybody? See, I like the non-aggression principle unless somebody is being aggressive, in which case, all aggression principle. Oh, you're going to come at me with 14% aggression? I'm going to nuke your face. So that's me. And I'm not saying that you should be that way. I'm saying I am that way. Like, poke me twice, I'll break your nose. Like, and we'll just start with that. But I digress. Oh no, my taxpayer dollars. Who cares? Similarly, Iowa Farm Bureau President Brent Johnson pointed out in a statement, a farm bill extends beyond the farm and protection of our food supply. Protection of our food supply. Okay, ConAgra, Monsanto, and I'm sure, our food supply. Define food, by the way. What are you going to do with this corn? Are you going to turn it into ethanol and put it into people's engines so that, our fuel efficiency is reduced and the longevity of the engine is destroyed? Cool. Sounds great. It also provides access to nutritional programs for families facing hunger. Okay. What about, hear me out. What about we fix the dollar so that it sounds like this, maybe even looks like this. We make money out of money again. Let's start there, okay? And then we also fix the culture. A radical statement here. Services like food stamps, unemployment, et cetera, I think should exist for short periods of time for people who are actually in crisis. Okay? For people who are actually in crisis to get you out of a bad spot. But the state's job is not to take care of anybody. It is not to take the place of the body of Christ when it comes to loving your neighbor as yourself, to being charitable, to being giving. And here we go. I think we need to bring back shaming for people who abuse the system and abuse people's good-hearted nature of taking care of other people. Because there's a whole bunch of people, not all of them, but there's a whole bunch of people that sit on their asses and get air quote benefits for doing nothing. And that comes out of all of our taxpayer dollars. And I'm super duper over it. If you are legitimately in need, see, I'm commanded to forsake not the widow and the orphan. Commanded. And I take it seriously. It's not the government's job to do that. It's my job. It's your job. It's our job to do that. And people who sit on their ass and receive air quote benefits that haven't done anything to earn them don't actually need them, able-bodied, just lethargic. You should be hungry. And you should get so hungry that it motivates you to get off of your ass and go get something done. Because when I was growing up and I grew up poor, let me tell you, if I was hungry, I went and killed something and I ate it. Okay. Please don't swear you're a Christian, right? You should get out of here. You should just run. I'm a follower of Messiah. I don't believe in the false doctrine of the Catholic Church and Helios Christos and all that other bullshit. And swear. See, you don't even understand what swear is. Messiah told the Pharisees that their works were filthy menstrual rags. That's the biblical equivalent of douchebag. Elijah talked shit about the false prophets of Baal. Okay? So if you have a problem with sounds, you're not going to fit in around here at all. You'd probably be going to a church that Messiah would be flipping tables at. Okay? I need confession, Nick. You're right. Oh, yeah. Please, Father, forgive me for tolerating people who don't like sounds. You're a Christian. I'm so Christian, the Christians don't like me anymore. I read this Bible and I do what it says. unlike Christians that don't read their Bibles and don't do what it says. They claim the name of Messiah. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. I never knew you. Matthew 5:17. Read it. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. The man of lawlessness is the Antichrist, and lawlessness is the working of Satan. But that's okay. You can go worship the sun on the day of the sun and do all of the things that Messiah tells us not to do and claim his name. And at the end of an age, he will say, depart from me, I never knew you. And that's going to suck for you. And that's why I am incapable of not speaking out against that, because I was one of those people too. And I was greatly deceived. I was part of the great delusion. And my life sucked. How can you be in covenant with somebody you don't even know who they are? You don't even know who they are. Oh, we're the bride of Christ. Cool. Who's Christ? Uh-huh. So, yeah, we're going to get married. Who is he? I don't know. I just met him, but it feels real good. Okay. What's his name? Where does he live? What kind of traditions does his family have? How does he conduct himself? What does he do for work? What are the expectations of you as the bride of this man? What's the family like that you're marrying into? I don't know. Okay, that's going to go well for you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. I never knew you. Or do your own thing. Whatever, that's fine. It's not my job to convict you. That's the Holy Spirit's job. John chapter 16, which will convict you concerning what? Sin. 1 John 3 verse 4, sin is lawlessness. Righteousness, Luke 1 verse 6. Righteousness is blamelessly walking the commands of Yah. These are all New Testament, by the way. And judgment. What's judgment? Revelation chapter 19 verse 11. Judgment is what you get if you fail the first two, sin and righteousness. Paul, I knew not sin but by the law. Oh, but the law was nailed to the cross. Was it? First of all, the word is staros, which means stake, not cross, because that comes from Tammuz. And crucifying people on a cross didn't come into vogue until about 300 AD. Messiah was crucified roughly around 33 AD, probably vertically on a pole, but that's neither here nor there. I knew not sin but by the law. But Galatians says the law was done away with. Galatians was taught by Shaul of Tarsus, the Apostle Paul, who was a chief rabbi, tutored at the feet of Gamaliel, who knew the Torah, the law, front and back, literally could recite it off the top of his head, and is teaching Torah at a doctorate level to kindergartners that don't show up to class. By the way, if you go to church once per week for 2 hours, to get the same number of hours in that it takes a kindergartner to graduate to first grade, you would have to go to church and read your Bible 2 hours per week for 12 years and 40 days to graduate from kindergarten to first grade, which is why you should have your nose in your Bible every day of the week. Spend as much time in it as you can, because when the kindergartner is fighting with the interpretation of the guy who's teaching at a doctorate master's thesis level, something's probably wrong here. What was done away with is the penalty of death that everyone has earned by their lawlessness, not the rules. Shall we sin all the more so that grace may abound? God forbid. Well, that would indicate we need to know what sin is. 1 John 3 verse 4, sin is lawlessness. And when you think about swearing, don't swear, bear. Don't say those words. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. Am I not giving you life with my tongue right now? And I can also say the word shit at the same time, which there is massive biblical precedent for, including from Messiah and from John the Baptist and from Elijah the prophet and from Hosea and from Amos. But of course, nobody knows this because nobody reads their own word. They just take some guy's word for it on Sunday morning so they can scratch that itch, check that box, and say that they feel good about themselves. And one day at the end of an age, they're going to go to heaven, even though that's not biblical either. I'm not a Christian because Christian means I play games on Sunday and pretend to know who Messiah is. I am a believer in Messiah. 1 Peter 2:21. For this you were called, that Messiah, having suffered for your sins, that you would walk in his steps. That's what I am. And if you got a problem with that, you're not going to fit in around here. So you can do one of two things. You can keep your mouth shut in the chat, or you can leave. One or the other. But you may notice I'm incredibly sensitive to anybody's efforts to police my speech. I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I will say whatever I have the conviction to say. And if you can't handle it, go. You're not going to fit in around here. Simple as that. And every one of y'all should be First Amendment absolutists as well. Because when we lose the ability to speak truth, we lose what makes us A, good followers of Messiah, and B, real Americans. I'm incredibly sensitive to the policing of speech. But he said bad words. Define bad. Your opinion of bad, society's opinion of bad. That made you feel something. Well, your heart is wicked and evil. But Jesus said, follow your heart. No, he didn't. You saw a meme on Instagram where somebody misquoted him. He never said that. He said your heart is wicked and evil. Oh, yeah. This right here. This is called a Bible. Right here. Read it. First page to the last page. Of course, as previously mentioned, farm income has been reduced across the United States, not just in Iowa. One potential ripple effect of reduced profits may be the permanent loss of farmland. According to the USDA, between 2017 and 2022, about 7% of U.S. farms evaporated from the agricultural sector. And for farms that continued to exist, the acres that were actually farmed declined by 2.2%. For perspective, that's 141,733 farms lost during those years from 2017 to 2022. John McMillan. Well, it took you long enough to snatch a knot in that tail. People worried about cussing. Guys, they're just words. They're just words. And I'll tell you this too. There are many different pastors out there. And I guarantee you it is going to be easier to find a pastor that'll just say nice things to you than it is going to be for me to change my speech. But there are people out there, men out there, that are rough around the edges, that are coarse, that do have calloused, covered hands, that know what it feels like to feel somebody's bones and flesh break underneath of their hands, who've taken lives, who have blood on their hands, who work from sunup to sundown to feed their families, and their body hurts, and they're tired, and they are crushed by the weight of expectation to be a father and a husband and a provider that speak exactly the way I speak, and nobody ministers to them. Nobody ministers to them. And the world and religion has created this expectation that these men need to conform who they are to the standards of the world and to the standards of religion in order to come into the fold to be part of the family. And I would submit to you that's completely unbiblical. Messiah worked with his hands. The apostles, many of them, were fishermen and tradesmen, farmers, prophets, many of them farmers and ranchers. Elijah, a prophet of the Most High, killed 450 men with an axe in one day. Samson, when the Holy Spirit comes onto him, kills 1,000 men in one day. King David, they wrote songs about the tens of thousands of men that King David killed. These were men. And the Father loves them. And no one is preaching to these men. So I will. And if you have a problem with that, if you can't sit around a fire with coarse, hard men who love the Father with everything they've got, you are not going to fit in here. And that's okay. But I'm not going to quit being me because you're not okay with it. That won't happen. I promise you that. Because these men are just as valuable to the Father. They were also fearfully and wonderfully created in his image, as was I, for a purpose, for this time, intentionally, with all the giftings and talents and delights and character traits that they have, for the Father's will, to serve his kingdom. And it's only because there are hard men out there busting their asses that soft men get to sit around and judge. So be really, really careful with that. Because your ass would probably be in a re-education camp right now, or a forced labor camp, or in a shallow grave somewhere, if there weren't people who made certain noises with their mouth that stand up to be the light in the darkness, to stand against evil, to apply force when necessary against evil, and occasionally say some words that some people don't like. And you are afforded the ability to judge because these men exist. Farmland's disappearing. It's bad. Great written brief, Dance Monkeys. Sorry I didn't get to read the whole thing. Coffee. Breathe. Oh. Deuteronomy 32, verse 39. Moses, in his last sermon to the Israelites, talking about the character of Elohim, quoting God, Yahuwah, Yahweh, Yahweh, pick your pronunciation, Yod He Vav He, the creator here. 32:39. See now that I am he, and there is no Elohim beside me. I put to death, and I make alive. I have wounded, and I heal, and no one delivers from my hand. For I lift my hand to the heavens and say, as I live forever, I have sharpened my flashing sword, and my hand takes hold on judgment. I shall return vengeance to my enemies and repay those who hate me. I make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword devours flesh with the blood of the slain and the captives from the long-haired enemy chiefs. O nations, acclaim his people, for he avenges the blood of his servants and returns vengeance to his adversaries, and shall pardon his land and his people. Sound like the God that's preached to you on Sunday morning? Just because we don't like something that's biblical doesn't make it wrong. Honest question. What does Ephesians 4:29 mean then? It means go to the YouTube search bar, put in Bear Independent Ephesians 4, and let me read the entirety of the New Testament on camera with you, as I already have. All right. Bear Independent bonus intel. By the way, there's 1,893 people here. What we're not going to do in the chat is argue doctrine, theology, interpretation in the chat. I have two very simple rules for live streams that I remind the patrons about all the time, but apparently I need to remind YouTube. There are two rules. Everybody's going to be cool to one another. Simple as that. Everybody's going to be cool to one another. We're not trying to score points on each other. We're not arguing. We're not fighting. Everybody's going to be cool to one another. Number two, if you have a question, you put it in all caps. And this is not a Q&A. But if you have a question, you put it in all caps. That increases the likelihood that I will see it. Because there's one of me. There's over 1,800 of y'all here. Okay? So, but let's refer back to rule number one. Everybody be cool to one another. I see some back and forth happening in the chat. To what end? Do you think your hastily thumbed out response in a YouTube chat is going to win anybody over? No. No, because you lack context and rapport with one another. And that's why, going back to context and rapport, I can say the things that I say to y'all because I have been here consistently for 7 years doing this with y'all. I've read every word of the New Testament on camera, most of the Old Testament on camera, all of the Torah portions on camera, working through the Old Testament. And then we will have read every word of the 66 canonical books of the Bible on camera together. And we've gone through COVID together and the Trump presidency together and the Biden presidency together and all of the prepper stuff and the homesteading stuff. We have context. We have rapport. Bear Independent bonus intel. This is a two-part intel. Send this into intel@bearindependent.com. I'm going to take a deep breath. Everybody do this with me. We're all going to take a deep breath. In. Hold it. Out. Intel@bearindependent.com. This is a two-part intel. I'm a longshoreman at the largest port via tonnage in North America. At the end of last week, November 8-ish, I noticed a very large quantity of military earth moving equipment, I'm guessing, loaded on flat racks. I'm assuming going into the European theater. I was unable to get a destination because I don't know anyone in the logistics side of the operation. But the bulldozers, dump trucks, track loaders, and PLS carriers, we had okay. We got the syntax in this is a little rough. The bulldozer, dump trucks, track loaders, and PLS carriers, we had older paint on them and were all armored. The equipment I saw move earlier going to Israel were all refreshed and had plates on them. Maybe this is an indicator of a preparation for Eastern European trench building movement. Part 2. As a longshoreman, I have to speak about the past strike and the temporary contract extension that ended the strike. The mainstream media and independent media all painted that the strike was about a pay raise. It was not. It was all about a fight against automation, 100%. USMX broke what was our contract, by putting in automation at various terminals that are covered under the master contract that has very distinct wording against automation and semi-automation. Because of the anti-automation in the contract, we are allowed for a no-strike clause out of good faith, fighting to keep jobs for individual workers and not allowing the companies to keep record profits and give their CEOs multi-billion-dollar Christmas bonuses after we did not miss a day of work through COVID-19. We, the East Coast, moved record numbers repeatedly to make up what the West Coast, highly automated, couldn't keep up with. I was notified today that USMX again is sneaking in verbiage into the new contract to allow them to insert automation and cut employees. That is why the ILA walked away from the table again. Pay rate don't mean anything if they replace the employees. I'm not saying there will be another strike on January 15th, but there is a good chance of it. If there is, that is why, the automation. We are trying to keep foreign companies that are running these terminals tax-free for 7 years, collecting all the profits, collecting billions in federal subsidies, and then getting taxpayer subsidies to automate and remove hundreds, if not thousands, of taxpayer jobs. That's good intel. Thank you. Intel at barronindependent.com. Next. My mother's neighbor and friend was hunting in Michigan 3 weeks ago. While in his tree stand, he ended up shooting himself with a crossbow. I'm still unsure on exactly how this mishap unfolded because of the path of the bolt. He shot through his upper thigh. It went through, into and out of his calf, then into his foot, pinning in the tree stand. Oofta. Once he got first responders on scene, they had to figure out how to get him out of the tree while still pinned. From my understanding, this was its own cluster F of a situation. Here's the kicker. Once out of the stand and in care, he was taken to 2 separate hospitals that both denied to take him as they were, quote, were not equipped to care for this kind of wounding, end quote. Then they transferred him a 3rd time to Hurley Medical in Flint, where he received proper care. He survived and is in recovery only by the grace of God and lots of extra blood. I write this to you to help stress the importance of med gear. I've been asked many times why I carry a bare minimum in the field with me on my own property. This is exactly why, and now my family understands. Gosh, dang. All right. So, first of all, yes, if you're carrying a way to make holes, you need to carry a way to plug holes. Okay, it's as simple as that. Any kit. Where's my belt kit? Look at how compact this is. This is great for war belt setup, hunting rig, law enforcement. Okay, you can mount this horizontally or vertically on your belt. Doesn't matter. It's got this cool little refuge tag on it right here. Okay, made in America, guaranteed forever. Shears are in the back here. It's got these snaps so you can mount it horizontally on your belt if you want, or it's got malice clips and Pal's weapon so you can mount it horizontally using Molly if you prefer, or you can just run a belt through the malice clips to run it horizontally. And I've got shears in the back here. Pop this open. What's in here? A genuine Cat 7 tourniquet and a pair of chest seals. Okay. And that, like, even just looking at the attention to detail. Can you guys even see that? This little retainer strap up here to keep the pull tab strap from running away from you. Or if you don't want this reflective tab out, you can fold it back underneath that retainer strap right there and then fold that over so that you don't have to worry about, if you want high vis, you have high vis. If you don't want high vis, like, very thought out, pressure tested. Okay. And then you got a second little pocket down here, which, if you're a law enforcement officer, this can hold Narcan, specifically designed to be the appropriate size to hold Narcan. Pop this open. I threw them on the ground. Got gloves right here. I've got a package of gauze right here for wound packing. And I've got an S-mark bandage right here to make a pressure bandage out of, which is basically a yoga band. Okay. So I've got tourniquet, wound packing, chest seals, shears, all on this little, and this is like $149, I think, as shown, like with the pouch, made in America, the cat, the guts, everything in it. Perfect little compact kit for doing stuff. This weighs less than a loaded AR-15 magazine. And it's the same size as a AR-15 magazine. Okay? Like, come on. You should have something like this. Is the belt kit. And we have 24 different kits that we currently produce. So you have options, is my point. You should have something on you. And you should know how to use it. And then the other thing that I would point out, oh, and again, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, early, up to 50% off life-saving gear, free shipping on all orders over $50, free gift with every purchase, and all vacuum sealed kits get you entered into a chance to win free training. I will pay for you to come to class. Okay. Bleeding prevention kit. We've talked about this. I ripped this one open on camera, but man, this bleeding prevention basic is like $60. Cat tourniquet, pressure, wound packing gauze, times 2, emergency trauma dressing, 2 pairs of gloves, trauma shears, survival blanket, permanent marker, and instruction card. This is great for a backpack, a desk drawer, a glove box, a hunting backpack. Bro, $60. Vacuum sealed kit. Just stick it in there. Okay, we have lots of options here. You want to buy a stomp bag, a hospital on your back? We have those too. I saw there's a whole tab. In the weeds, but there's a whole tab on Refuge on the top, Black Friday sale. We have the Crash and the Smash. These are in like hard cases, like Pelican cases. They're $150 off. That's phenomenal. The SWAT T is 25% off. Barefac refill kits, Sam pelvic slings, burn dressing sets, like Refuge beanies. You want a Refuge beanie because your head's going to get cold? Got it. Hemostatic bandages, the Olays hemostatic bandages is $10 off right now. Big deal. That's like $10 off on hemostatics. It's a big deal. Another thing, Ready Heat blankets. You guys know what hot hands are? In the little hand warmer pouches. Hot hands. The Ready Heat blanket is one of those that's the size of an adult torso. And you take it out, shake it, snap it real hard, and lay it over somebody. It's a great winter survival kit. Great for mitigating hypothermia. Those are all on the Black Friday sale tab at Refuge Medical. All right. So the other thing I wanted to point out, they took this casualty to the wrong hospital twice. You need to know where the trauma centers in your area are. Okay. You need to know. You need to know because we're burning time on the ambulance going to the wrong place twice. It also illustrates we have this American Western thinking that once the ambulance gets here, everything's fine. Negative. It is not always fine when the ambulance shows up. My guys have been on crash sites where the ambulance showed up and the EMTs in the ambulance were asking my guys what to do. I have shown up on the side of the road when there's been a wreck and there's multiple ambulances there, people standing around looking at casualties, wondering what to do. I'm like, hey, have you done assessments on these people? And they're like, no. Do you know how to do that? I'm like, uh-huh. They're like, can you do that? I'm like, son of a, yes, I will do it. You will watch so you know how to do it next time. And these are the guys that drove the ambulances here. Like you're here with an ambulance. I forget what it was. I needed something off my truck. I was like, I guess I'll go to my truck to get it since I have it and you don't have it on the ambulance. So just because the ambulance gets here doesn't mean, can the Ready Heat blanket be reused? What's up, Texas Sheep Lady? It cannot. It's just like a hand warmer. But we have our Taurus wool blankets and Mylar blankets on there that can be reused 100% as well. My point is, just because the ambulance gets here doesn't mean the problem is solved. Okay. They could take you to the wrong hospital twice while you got a crossbow bolt stuck through your leg. Also, trigger discipline, anybody? What are you like? What? So, all right. Next, it's because of you and others like you, I began prepping, then homeschooling. And with that mindset, it led me to leave my job with a major construction company and go into business for myself. Get off the hamster wheel and start where I am with what I have and build the skills and be able to barter goods and services. That being said, I'm pretty fresh in it still and still fairly poor. So this past week, when building a fence and running a 3/16 drill bit through one side of my middle finger and out the other, my first thought was to dress it and head home due to the fact I don't have health insurance. A few folks I talked to in the medical field convinced me to go to the ER strictly for a tetanus shot and antibiotics. Yeah, I would agree with that. The closest ER near me turned me away for not having insurance, and I almost had to beg them to redress the wound at this time, as I had made the decision I would drive 45 minutes north to the ER closer to my house in Wise County. Is this in Virginia? Wise County, Virginia? There I got a tetanus shot, antibiotics, and a few stitches, but definitely not top quality work, as I had informed them I had no insurance. But it was enough to send me on my way relatively safe, and for that I'm thankful. This made me think about a few things. Number one, when I went into business for myself, I tried to get health insurance. Definitely not one for government assistance. I still even went to healthcare.gov, and the lowest quote just for myself was about $400 a month. Yeah, it's rough out there, homie. No way I can afford that, and how can that be assistance? But it's for the better. I'd rather not have their help anyways. It just gave me a real-time experience that not only is the insurance insanely expensive, but if you don't have it, you will either not receive care or it will be subpar. I guess that's part of the price you pay for jumping off the hamster wheel. But that leads me to the next thing. In an SHTF scenario, what do we do about things like tetanus and antibiotics? So tetanus, okay, so I'm not a doctor. Antibiotics, you can get them from Jace Medical. There's even a tab at refugemedical.com. If you want to get Jace through us, you can get a discount. So just go to Refuge Medical, then click through to Jace. What watch does Bear wear? This is a company called Original Grain, and this is made out of ammo can steel. Original Grain. But Jace Medical for antibiotics. Tetanus, yes, tetanus is technically a possible issue, but I would be less concerned about that. I'd be more concerned about a general infection. And then as far as like dressing the wound, gauze tape, gloves, disinfectant. Gauze tape, gloves, disinfectant. I've got a decent IFAC I built for myself, hoping to have a BearFAC in the near future, and it helped me in a recent situation. Also, we have several mixed and matched doses of amoxicillin that we save from any leftover prescriptions. But what do you recommend for the PO folk when it comes to these types of wounds that may need tetanus shots or antibiotics? I recommend you just keep doing what you're doing at this point. Keep the wound clean. You don't want any foreign bodies inside of it. Pus is a bad sign, not a good sign. You've got an infection. So yeah, I could argue you shouldn't have any leftover antibiotics because you should have taken the whole course of antibiotics that you were prescribed for whatever you got them for in the first place. But I've also been poor, and for everything there's a season. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm poor again at some point, and I'm by no means rich currently. So who knows? But Jace case, get it through Refuge Medical. What's up, Tiago? That wouldn't be partaking in pharmakia. I think there's a line in pharmakia. So antibiotics, there's things that are naturally occurring, like penicillin, for example. That's naturally occurring. We put it into a pill form. Salt is naturally occurring. We put it in water. We call it a saline solution. We use that for everything from eye wash to intravenous to irrigating wounds. It's naturally occurring. It came from that. And then there's Pfizer came up with this abomination in a lab. That's not naturally occurring. If it takes electron microscopes and we got to use the electron collider from CERN in order to come up with a new particle in order to inject that into. No. Do you still have people in North Carolina and Tennessee? No. Grindstone Ministries is a disaster relief organization, not a disaster recovery organization. So we're there for preservation of life in the short term, usually a week to 6 weeks, depending on the storm. Then we always do a turnover to somebody who's going to be there longer for the rebuilding process. And so right now, what I would recommend is Appalachia Service Project. Appalachia Service Project. And Grindstone is in part supporting Appalachia Service Project through funds that came in during our Hurricane Helene deployment to be able to help them rebuild houses there in Eastern Tennessee, Western North Carolina. And so ASP, Appalachia Service Project, really good folks, recommend them. And they will be there for the long haul. Give us the link, www.google.com, Appalachia Service Project. My gosh, give us the link. Guys, you're on the internet right now. You know that, right? Like you're aware, like this is the internet. Use it. It is a tool. Oh, good morning, Father. Yeah, surely it can't be this hard. What are you doing today, Dad? What is going on? Father, let your will be done. Just let your will be done. And Father, let us count it all joy when we fall into various trials. Father, open our eyes, open our ears, open the doors that we need to walk through and close the ones that we don't need to walk through. Put the people into our lives that are supposed to be here and take the ones that aren't supposed to be here away from us. Please continue to be sovereign over all things and guide our hands and our heads and our hearts, Father, because we are stupid and egotistical and impatient and short-sighted and weak and petty and wholly dependent upon you and your goodness for provision and protection and blessing. And I just praise you that you continue to protect us and provide for us and bless us even though we're stupid. Thank you for being a good dad. Father, thank you for giving us your word and your word made flesh, that we would have a rule book and an example as to how we're supposed to conduct ourselves, because we are so good at being bad. Father, I get it. I understand why you made us in this time. And I understand that the conclusion of the matter is to serve you and keep your commands. But Father, I pray that you would just reveal yourself to all these people as to how specifically they are supposed to serve you. That serving you would not be an amorphous term that we get to hide behind in a box checker mentality, but that it would be a commission that you lay on our hearts that is undeniable, and that you would equip and empower us to walk in that commission, to serve you with our giftings and talents and our delights, with our strength, with our weakness, with our wisdom and our stupidity, that we would be the person you made us to be and do the things that you made us to do. Father, that we would do those things with joy in our hearts and without fear. That we would truly trust in you. Father, I pray that you just manifest yourself in ways that are undeniable to all these people within the sound of my voice, that they would not come to know you better, that they would know, not think or believe or postulate, but that they would know who you are, and that they would know how good you are and how sovereign you are. that there is no wisdom or understanding or counsel against you. Father, thank you for bringing us home again. Thank you for relentlessly pursuing us. Thank you for the covering of the blood of Mashiach. Thank you for paying a price that we couldn't pay because you love us. Thank you for tolerating our rebellion and our stupidity and our ego and our pride and our hubris, and continuing to walk with us anyway. Father Yah, if there's anything within the sound of my voice that is not of you, we come together in agreement and rebuke it in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach and command it to destroy itself. Father, let no weapon formed against us prosper, but let your will be done and use us as instruments of your will. Father, let us not be afraid on the battlefield of life, but let our light shine so forth before men that they might know you and see you and understand, comprehend your sovereignty. Father Yahweh, please continue to make your face to shine upon these people. Father, give them your peace, your shalom today. Bless them with provision and protection and blessings. And continue to walk with us. In Yeshua's name. Amen. Shalom.